And we are back. Thank you guys. Thank you once again to Kevin Goatee from the Gutting the Sacred Cow podcast for joining us for the first half. We're going to get to our list of shit and all of our normal stuff here regularly. But right now, we are bringing back on a friend of the show, a friend of mine I went to high school with, Martin Mazika. Now, Martin joined us last time via the phones. He lives up in New York. And as anybody knows,
in New York?
Well, that's what we're getting down to. Anybody who's watching the TV knows that that's one of the places that has been burnt down. And, well, let's get straight to it. Martin,
you all
how
got
are
the burnings
things?
and we got the shootings, evidently. Go ahead.
Martin, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, how are things going in New York? What are things like?
Well, when I talked to you last, right after I talked to you, we packed up everything and anything and took the kids up to my in-laws. And then, once in a while, we'll go back and check on some of the house and the plants and the fish. But it's been crazy. They split the state into sections, and they're doing like phases. You have to meet certain criteria to be able to reopen, and then the reopening is done in phases 1, 2, 3, and 4. So just within the last, I'd say, week, the capital region up here in Albany, they started to open, which is interesting to go out and see places open. We went to an ice cream shop the other day, but when you go back to the city, it's just disgusting. They haven't focused on any of the street cleaning.
Really?
It's just a mess. You have the lines are ridiculous to get into a store. And then up here, it's practically a whole different world. You just go right in, come out. You still have to wear the mask. I got to witness a couple coming in from Massachusetts, because we're kind of near the border of Massachusetts, and they came into Target, and the state has a mask law. And I heard over the walkie-talkies, but I could see the door and the couple standing there, and a kid was like talking to the manager, stating, what do I do? This couple wants to come in from Massachusetts, but they don't have any mask. And you heard people shouting, tell them to go back, F them.
That's insane to me. I'm sorry. Here in Florida, when this whole thing started, we all most of us wore the mask and gloves for like the first month and a half, but then we're like, okay, clearly this is insane. And so, there's some people who wear the mask, the gloves are pretty much gone away. But like I said, today's the first time in 3 months I've actually was given a mask before I could go into Guitar Center of all places. I've only been accosted once, and that was standing in the line at Lowe's, and I was 4.5 feet from the guy in front of me instead of 6. And so the paranoid lady behind the counter quickly screamed at me to back up and give the man 6 feet.
Sir, I need you to back up, sir.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sir, back up. Yeah.
What about what about the protests and all that? Has any of your property or any of your friends' property been affected by that?
Not the property per se. I got a few friends that own a restaurant nearby, and I was talking to them, and sadly, I didn't realize that rioting damage is not even covered under insurance. So,
do they see that as force majeure or what?
What's that?
They see that like act of nature, force majeure. I mean,
it's considered just it's not covered under rioting. And then like maybe a few days after I spoke to him, he actually on the local news up here, they had made another mention that, and they were at a destroyed property, and they ended the story with, and sadly, insurance doesn't cover this.
What does insurance cover, by the way?
You paying more money regardless.
Insurance is the biggest scam. It's one of the only services you pay monthly and pray you never have to use it. The amount of money you spend on car insurance, homeowners insurance, dental insurance, all that stuff is insane. And then the one time you actually file a claim,
all the hoops.
I remember when we first moved down here, Hurricane Charlie hit us. My dad had just put up his privacy fence, and as anybody in Florida knows, a vinyl 6-foot privacy fence will run you about $5,000. Hurricane Charlie came, knocked it down. My dad has had the same homeowner insurance since the first house he bought in Ohio. So he's had houses in Ohio, Texas, California, and Florida. Never once filed a single claim. Not a one. His fence got knocked down. His lanai screen got all warped up. Filed a claim. His insurance company, the one he's had for 30, 40 years, gave him a fat check for $125 and then kicked his policy down to one of their subsidiary companies. It's like, what the hell? What do you guys... It's such a goddamn scam. And, you got all these businesses. Well, Like I remember when COVID-19 started kicking out, one of my clients who's a medical-based office, their office manager was on the phone with their insurance. Nope, you guys aren't covered if you have to shut down. Now you got people whose businesses are being destroyed by rioters. It's not covered. So let me ask you this. Maybe you know. If my window's kicked in and my shit's stolen on a Friday night where there's not a riot, is it covered?
Sounds. I bet you it would be because that'd be robbery. That's not rioting.
So that's the fine line, whether it's one person or 150. There's a guy we went to school with. He's got I think like 3 Little Caesars in the Columbus area, and he posted he was online with ADT when they called when store number 2 got its window kicked in, and he had to put them on hold to answer the phone from ADT when store number 3 got its windows kicked in. So he had 2 Little Caesars around Columbus that were destroyed.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I've had what was that store before Best Buy in Columbus? What was like
Sun TV, H.H. Gregg,
No, that was Sun TV.
Circuit
Sun TV
City.
before,
Yes.
Circuit City.
Yep.
They their insurance was a scam. They had their own. They had split themselves into their insurance company they owned and the company itself they owned. But if you contacted the insurance company, they acted like they didn't know the store. But I've also I've had jewelry in other places where insurance has been great, and then I've had places like that Circuit City. It was horrible. It was a scam.
Let me. I'm going to be very delicate about the subject, but I just have a question. We're all the same age, and whoops, I'm moving the wrong thing here. We're all of the same age, and I'm going to bring up a topic that you guys probably haven't thought of in a while, but you've heard people argue about for at least the last 20 years. So right now, I think 2 weeks ago, the creator of BET was on Fox News, and he was pleading his case for reparations for the descendants of slaves. I think he wanted a one-time payment of $350,000, and clearly that ain't going to happen. And then now I think OC, What's Her Nose, and a few other ones are saying, well, hey, let's start defunding the police and reallocating some of those funds. Which, if that's what you want to do, that's up to your constituents. But here's my question. So now we're hearing all this ramblings about how the police departments have way too much money. They've been militarized. Maybe they have. That's not my point of this thing. Here's where it's a little weird to me. What's the argument we've heard about for the last 20 or 30 years, the problem with prisons?
They're overpopulated,
They
right?
privatize.
Exactly. Privatized prisons, they have incentive for the police to bring in more convicts so that they get paid by the state for more convicts. And so for the last 20 to 30 years, they've been trying to illegalize privatized prisons, i.e. make it where the states are funding them and the government are funding them. But now we're saying let's defund the police. So you want state-funded prisons but privatized police force? Because once you defund the police, they're not just going to shut up shop. They're going to go out and start kicking the bushes to find sponsors, to get donations, and they will become privatized. So which one is it? Do you want privatized prisons and privatized police forces, or you want the state paying for the prisons and having privatized police? Which one is it? They can't even get on the same goddamn page when it comes to what they want.
Or is it that okay, we're going to downsize and the city police, now the sheriff's department's going to swell, or the state's going to swell? I mean, it's going to shift to one place or another, right? So, like for example, in Las Vegas, we don't have city police. We are actually Las Vegas Metro PD is the sheriff. So you go down to Laughlin, Nevada, 3 hours away, LVMPD cars, So and then obviously Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department is under scrutiny too, and I struggle. I don't understand, obviously, being who I am, what some of the ethnic groups have gone through. It would be like the cheap seats, but if it was the cheap seats, it'd be all the way up top, in back, behind a bunch of people trying to see the field of play. And I feel for everybody, but
well, the weird thing is
if you go too far,
if you cut the funding for the police, that means one, you're going to have less cops, and two, you're going to have cops getting paid less, and so you're going to have less good people wanting to be cops and dealing with that job instead of $40,000 a year for $28,000. So then you're going to get more hard up people who maybe aren't have the character that you want becoming cops, and I don't think that's going to solve the problem.
Have you met those people that work in drive-through windows that don't answer you with a smile, and it's like you're bothering them? Yeah, that's what you're going to get.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to want to do the job.
I mean, it already isn't paid enough anyway. So it's
if you ask me, from coming out of Ohio and coming straight into the Bronx, I was living straight in the hood. I was regentrifying areas before they even regentrified. But the thing that you see is you see all these politicians. Not so much. You don't see this in the communities like a Grove City where you have Southwest City Schools or Upper Arlington where you have more community control over their schools. These areas like here in New York City, the mayor has got full control of the schools because essentially the governor said, you know what, you got bad schools, you have good schools, but the bad schools are so bad, we're going to come in and do something about it. And in like Springfield, Ohio, what they did is they tore down South High School, which was in a really impoverished area, had bad results. They completely tore it down and said, guess what, white people? On the north side of town, all of the kids down in the south, they're all coming to North High School next year. All of them, whether you like it or not. We tore down south. It doesn't exist. You're all going to one school. There's the problem. You're going to integrate. And the state took it over and said, you know, you couldn't solve the problem. We're solving it for you. New York was going to do that when I first came. That's kind of how I got drawn into New York. And
Because you
the
were a
idea
teacher,
was-
correct?
Right.
For those
The
watching at
idea
home.
was, we're going to, we're going to take over and we're going to make changes since you can't do it. And the Mayor Bloomberg at the time said, no, give me a chance. Give me full control. Let me appoint all these bureaucrats and we're going to come up with all these ideas. And New York State said, fine, it's off our hands. You're going to do it. So since then, they've taken away the small communities, the community boards that were making up all the decisions. And there might have been small community boards that were making bad decisions, but for the most part, the area knew what was needed best. And so now that you've got these huge cities with these political appointees, no one cares. Everything's political. They're just shoving these kids through. No one.
They're
has
just trying to
any
get that
account-
money. They get paid per student.
There's no discipline whatsoever. They're even now wanting to take out here in New York City. They want to take out New York City's the police department having anything to do with school safety. Essentially, what that would do is it would allow them to sweep more of the problems under the rug.
Would they start their own, like out here in Clark County School District, we're actually the 5th largest school district in the country, believe it or not. And that's because every school in Las Vegas that's not private belongs to Clark County School District. It doesn't matter what part of the city they're in. But what they have is Clark County School District Police Department. They have their own law enforcement officers. And that's kind of an interesting twist. I've never seen that until I moved here.
Well,
They
going
don't
back,
have their own law enforcement. What they've got is they're more or less. What happened was they were sort of just mall cops,
Resource
And
officers?
Then what they did is they slapped on a uniform that mimics the police to give them a little bit more authority. But they honestly, they've got no authority whatsoever. They don't have really handcuffs. They don't have any weapons. I didn't know until one day we were I was the union head and we had to do a shelter drill and bombing drills and things like that. And the security guards all wanted to know where they were supposed to hide. And I turned and I looked
Nowhere.
at them, what do you mean? They're like, well, we're supposed to hide until the real cops come. So it was like, what's the point of all they
What
are?
are we
is-
paying for?
well, especially
They're
consider
ID
going.
especially
Yeah,
consider
they're
New York
ID
City
checkers.
has the largest police department. Here in Lee County, we have our real, Cape Coral. They actually have Cape Coral cops who become resource officers. They are stationed at the school. So every school actually has a legitimate straight up cop. But kind of going back to what we were saying earlier about before we got into the school stuff, but about defunding police, and Gordon talked about how in Vegas, their sheriff's department or the one police force handles all these different areas. And if you live out in some of these areas, it takes a little longer to get response. Now, if you listen to this podcast for any amount of time and you hear us talking about the area of Southwest Florida, the area of Lehigh Acres comes up a lot. And if you ever read the news, there's a lot of crime going out there. Well, interestingly enough, Lehigh Acres is not incorporated. And so they don't have their own police department. And so the Lee County Sheriff's Department, they do Cape Coral. Cape Coral has a police department, and then they have the Lee County Sheriff's. Fort Myers has Fort Myers Police, which they're in all kinds of shit. They're under reconstruction, but Lee County Sheriff handles that area. And then anything goes on out in Lehigh and Alva, Lee County Sheriff covers that area as well. And so when you start defunding the police, you're going to get a lot more of that. And you think things are bad now, just wait when there's no 1-2 call.
There's no retribution.
Right.
I
And
don't think
that was
about
my,
that.
I guess my point to get to was the fact that these same individuals who want to defund are the same individuals who then these young children who become adults who had no accountability, had no discipline. Then when they're, you know, out in public and they're supposed to be upheld to a certain standard, and they encounter the police who we hire to uphold those standards, then it's like, what do you mean? I've been able to go my whole life. These people have set the bar here for me, and now you're setting the bar even lower for me. It's going to be craziness because it's these individuals who are also in control of defunding police have set this whole sort of like platform up for some of these individuals. And I don't know what the heck's going to happen I mean, I get some of the defunding. They're saying, you know, more community, more outreach. You know, do you need a tank for like, you know, a police force? I get some of that, but at the same time, you know, some of these individuals have wanted to defund everything, and these poor police officers, you know, they don't have the idea that this individual has got all these problems, have got all these, and when they come across this individual, you know, they want to go home to their family. And at the end of the day, you know, like you guys were saying before, who are you going to get to take on this new role of being
Yep.
a cuddler, a social, you know, a psychologist? How many degrees do I need to be to become a police officer now? You know, like
A ton.
So I
what roles am I
understand.
playing?
I completely understand needing to change things on the police level.
Absolutely.
Things are out of control, but defunding, the only thing that screams in my head is the law of unintended consequences.
Well, here, let's look at it this way. We don't have to completely defund, but here's a thought. For the longest time, a lot of these police departments were getting a little funding from the government for, you know, busting all these potheads out there. Well, now that more and more of these states have legalized marijuana and, you know, medical marijuana, maybe take
Shifted the
that, take the pot money away. Keep the hooker money, the crack money, the heroin money, the SWAT team money, but take that large bulk of money that they had been getting from the federal government for all these years for fighting the war on drugs. Maybe take that money and redirect it, because now, especially in the states where I'm sure the rest, obviously, clearly the rest are down in these states like Vegas, California, Washington, where you're no longer arresting somebody for having an eighth in their car or, you know, a quarter in their trunk or whatever. So that money could go somewhere and be better spent.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with you on that. I just, God, this, I don't even know where to start.
Let's change this subject. I got a new segment. Well, I just want to change the subject to something a little more
Please.
fun because everybody's tired of this shit.
Absolutely.
I was going to make a little intro for this, but Martin, you can join in for this. It's a nice little new segment I want to call "Am I Mansplaining?"
No boy.
Here's the situation. I was at the store the other day, and it's the Dollar General, and I'm coming out, and a lady's got her stuff on the sidewalk, and she's looking at this little skinny blue bottle, and she's looking at the gas tank, and she walks over and pops her gas tank open, and I said, "Is that fuel injector cleaner?" She's like, "Yeah." Now, I didn't get into the whole this with her, but, you know, long before I had a nice Toyota Tacoma that was reliable, I've come from a long line of shitty cars, and I've spent mad amounts of money in my 20s on fuel injector cleaner, octane boost, and all that shit.
All the additives.
And all the additives say, do not put this in your gas tank unless you have over a half tank of gas. And we were right across the street from 7-Eleven, and I said, hey, if that's fuel injector cleaner, you may want to go across the street if you have less than, you know, 3/4 of a tank of gas, and put it in and fill up your tank. Because if you read the instructions, you know, it does say make sure you have almost a full tank of gas. And she's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's fuel injector cleaner. I get in my car, and she just, I don't know if she thought I was mansplaining to her or, you know, or what, but she just went right to that gas tank and glug, 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 glug. And when I was pulling away, I was like, is that a definition of mansplaining, or am I a nice stranger offering quality advice on how to maintain your car because I've been there? What do you think I'm mansplaining, or am I just helping out the random stranger?
I think on that one, you were just helping out the
if-
random stranger.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I got a
the
second
kid just
theory.
didn't take your advice, you know?
She did, and she went and put that shit in her car. Okay.
If you ask my wife, she's convinced that us that are from Ohio will talk to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so it could be that you're in Ohio and that you're just, you know, that there's something about us that she's never, like here in New York, people don't say hi to each other. We were walking down the street when I first moved in with her, and this old lady, I said, hi, how you doing? She was out. She goes, do I know you?
Yep.
I don't know you. Why are you saying hi to me? And then now my wife makes fun of me because it's like, we'll stop at anywhere. And it's like, they see the Ohio plates or they see Ohio t-shirt on, and they're like, oh, hey, so maybe it's, maybe it's from your Ohio roots. You just
It's funny
Too friendly,
because
man.
everybody
Too
from
friendly.
everybody from
That
New
chicken
York used
fly.
everybody from New York used to go down to Miami, but Miami's getting overpopulated, so now they're heading over here. And you're New Yorkers. I don't need to hear you say, "Yeah, I'm from New York." We don't fucking care. But yeah, they use that
Garbage
as a
disposal accent could kind of give that away.
well, they
You're
use
fine.
it as a justification for their asshole attitude and their bad, their bad, just being a dick. I can be a dick. I'm from New York. Yeah, who gives a shit? Go back. Nobody cares. No one in Florida's from Florida. It's just like nobody in California is from California. So just like I kind of fashion the joke. How do you know somebody's from Ohio? Their car will tell you all about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be driving down the road. There's a Jeep in front of me that has a Ohio State Buckeye license plate ring. On the same Jeep, the tire cover, then all the headrest and like their seatbelt covers, and it's like one Jeep has 338 Buckeye logos on it. Yeah, we get it. You're proud to be from Ohio.
It's the old saying. I've said it before. Say it again. Ohio. It's a great place to be from.
Yeah.
And that's about it on that.
Have you guys thought about?
I see though, like
Go ahead.
going back to this whole madness. Part of it I get a little like not upset, but I get sad. Like I see, our friends back in Grove City. I see them with kids. They're out watching baseball games. Florida kids are doing things. Or like I see people going to like the metro parks and we're sitting here. I swear it's like here in New York. It's like we're on lockdown and I don't know if they've got us brainwashed and the rest of you guys are crazy or it's when you see on Facebook. It's like we're still sort of. I guess I don't know if it's the governor on TV every day coming on and telling us things, and the mayor coming on, and
Yeah, you in
But then
Michigan.
you go on Facebook, and it's like the rest of the world outside of New York. You guys are all like now starting to go to kids' ball games. I see people like putting on Facebook like, "Oh, we haven't seen each other for 2 months." They're hugging each other. Hell, I don't even want to touch a stranger.
Yeah, I think you're over inundated
Be
with
near
it.
a stranger.
Yeah, I meant to
What's
ask you
that?
that earlier. I said I think you guys are over inundated with it. I was meant to ask you earlier, what's it like to live in a lockdown state and seeing 3/4 of the country just going about their business, or seeing Cuomo on the TV telling you to stay at home, seeing CNN, stay at home, stay at home. But when it comes to the protesting and the rioting, well, that's free speech. Come on down and have a good time. Well, which one is it? Are we supposed to stay home?
Well, now we're starting to see
A spike?
their message now is they're going to see numbers spike here in the next few weeks because of all this.
Well, shouldn't they have already seen it start though? Doesn't it usually take 5 to 7 days to really kind
Yeah.
of start?
I don't know. The only time so far that I've like sort of wanted to lose my crap was the first time that I finally said, okay, I'm going to go out. And I had the kids. I was driving around and they saw a Dunkin' Donuts. The kids, for whatever reason, they see that orange and brown sign, they go nuts. So I was like,
America
all right.
runs on Dunkin' because Starbucks is still asleep.
I was like, the state, this zone is kind of opened up. They're letting you do like that kind of stuff. So I stopped in and ordered like 6 donuts and myself an iced coffee. And so a kid, comes to the counter, takes my cash. Now I'm like fearful to touch the cash. I'm like handing the cash. I'm wiping. I have a Dixie cup that I keep cash in. After I wipe my hands after I touch the cash.
He's microwaving
Honey,
his
give me
wallet.
my
when he gets home.
portable UV light. I need it.
he's got rubber gloves on. He's now handled my cash, handed me change that who knows where that cash was at. So I'm thinking, okay, this guy's got gloves on. He's just the cash handler. That's what it's got.
Nope.
Cash handler owner. I'm in. So then all of a sudden I see another kid come over and he's got rubber gloves on. So what's he do? He touches the monitor to check the order.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that guy just touched my money and touched that monitor. So then I'm sitting there thinking, are these kids touching the donuts with their hands? Are they using tongs? So I asked the kid, I was like, did you use tongs? Like, so that's that. Well, then he hands me the box. So now I'm thinking, oh shit, I got to wipe the box down. And before I open it up, so I set the box. So now I turn to get my iced coffee. And he's got his hand with his glove on top of the iced coffee. And I'm like, oh, come on, man. Like, are you serious? You just touched everybody's money. Now you're touching my top.
Might as well
And
have.
that sent me sort of the over because it was still the time when it was like, the protesting hadn't started yet. The only thing that was open was drive-throughs, and when you get up there, they got a window about this big in the house. They're handing you, and that was the only time that I sort of was like. And now, we joke. The other day, we went out and got some ice cream, and
I got out of the car without a mask, and my wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I guess I'm, starting to get back into the swing of things." And but I mean, I guess if it was just my wife and I'd be okay. It's just that
Yeah.
one part of the back of your head when you got kids, you're like, and that's the one thing that still sort of is like freaking me out, because now you haven't heard of it anywhere else, but New York City had 100 of these like Kawasaki illnesses. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, they're
Where
called like
it's
the
hear about
super
that,
bug.
but it was like only in New York. You didn't
Yeah.
hear it in California. You didn't hear it anywhere else. So when I go home to New York and I pick up, a cooler of meat at the place we like to shop, and I'll pick up other things that only you can get in New York. It's like I wipe that down because I'm like, I don't want to bring this Kawasaki back. But then all of a sudden you don't hear that anymore. So I don't know. I'm hoping that, the more and more that people get out, and after this protest, if 2 weeks from now nothing happens, now we know that,
It's funny you're
what
talking
it
about
is.
Dunkin' Donuts. I was at Starbucks, and the guy laughed too because the whole thing's just stupid. He has his gloves on, right? So he takes my debit card. Now a lot of them will put the thing out the window so you can just put your card in there yourself. But he took my debit card and swiped it, but then he handed me my coffee in he basically had a coffee mug with my coffee sitting in it. It's like, so you can handle my debit card, but you're afraid to hand me my coffee. We just had hand-to-hand contact when I handed you my debit card, but you got to put my coffee in another mug, which has been handled by you guys. So it's all weird, which leads me into another topic. Here in Florida, we have a lot of toll booths. I know you guys do it up there in New York as well. And for the longest time, we had the pay lanes. About 5 years ago, they got rid of the change lanes. When I first moved down here in 03, you drive through and throw the hand, which was always fun, just throw the coins.
Yeah.
Once they got rid of those, you would take your dollars, you'd fold them up, you'd put them in your fingers, and you'd try to drive by and have them grab it without stopping, just keep motion going. And then as cameras and technology developed, I got a speed pass, and I would just go through. But the speed pass is in my truck, but whenever I drive the Volkswagen to events out throughout Florida, especially I'm going to Orlando and Miami, I take the Volkswagen because it gets better gas mileage. But Cary doesn't have a speed pass in it, or any pass for that matter. And so what they do is they just take a picture of your license plate, and they send you a $2 bill, or I have mine set up for auto enroll. So whenever I run a toll booth and her card just automatically hits my debit card for $2. And so now they're doing that all the time for all toll. And so the people who used to collect toll are gone. And I do not think that job will come back. I think you'll see those toll booths taken away. And
Automated out of existence.
They're the exit here up the block. They still have one.
no, they're
All
probably
the-
unionized there though.
The smaller ones, they're getting to it, but all the bridges, and then the way it works is that if you don't have the little toll bell, they send it to you in the mail, and it's I don't know, I'd want to say 30-40% higher priced for not having it. So they mail it to you based on your license plate picture, but they're slowly, I would say, every maybe year or so, you drive up a little bit further upstate, you'll notice that exit they're working on. So yeah, it's a matter of time.
Yeah,
But I was surprised to see them when it was completely hitting the fan, and it was almost like, you touch or you sneeze.
yep.
I was surprised that they were still working, and I was wondering, wow,
Well, knowing New
We'll have
York
that
and New
job.
Jersey, that's probably a unionized gig, and so they have a hard time, sending those guys home, because I'm sure the union reps will definitely say, "Well, that's a job that's needed to be done."
Essential.
Yeah.
It's essential.
yeah, I actually I applied to come back off my leave and go back and work in the schools, and as of right now, they don't know what they're doing, but that's one of the things that is going to be interesting to see how they're going to fix that. I don't know if you guys saw the CDC's recommendation. It's like you can't share materials, you can't share. So a kid asks for a pencil or let's say you're going to do a project with kids with scissors. Used to, you just put the bucket of scissors out. Everybody uses the scissors. Well, now I guess you got to bring your own scissors. I don't know what the heck's going to go on.
Yeah, our school year just ended, and funnily enough, I had to take Nugget to drop off her library books, but they told her to keep her Chromebook. Now, hypothetically, because they're not sure if they're going to do... I have a theory what's going to happen, at least here in Florida. I think they're going to go hybrid. I think they're going to offer schooling for the kids whose parents aren't terrified, and then the ones who parents are, they'll offer the distance learning. Or I think one of the things they're kind of talking about is flip-flop to keep the numbers down in class. Let's say you have 25 kids, put in 12 chairs. well, you can keep your 25, but only have 12 students. Every other student come in on. So Timmy comes in on Monday, but on Tuesday he does distance learning, so that Stella can
Yeah.
come in, sit in her desk that's
Weeks
next to
on and
his,
weeks off.
and so they rotate every other day, so that the class isn't completely full. You keep your 6 foot distance. The kids social, learn at home for one day, but then get the interaction. But my problem with that is, by that point, I think most of the businesses are going to be back open. So what are the parents going to do to be home, especially with elementary school kids and middle school kids, to make sure that they are actually doing their distance learning? And the teachers, I mean, they're basically going to be live streaming their class, right? They're going to have to put up a camera, and just because you can't have two teachers, one teaching the class and one teaching the kids on the laptop. So I don't know how that's going to work.
I have no idea. I know right now in New York, because I've been staying on top of it and watching. The biggest thing is the union is saying that you don't have to live teach because these teachers are upset that maybe I have something behind me. The kid gets to see my house, or some of these teachers were upset that they were being turned into memes. And,
No, kids aren't going to turn a
That's
teacher into a
awesome.
meme. Not at all.
so the union said you don't have to teach live.
It said pre-recorded. Well, even if you pre-record it, they can make it into a meme. If you're that worried about,
It doesn't stop.
put your
I don't
mask
know.
on. Then your face is covered. Problem solved. Carrie was really good. She actually did Zoom meetings every single day during this, and so she had her quote unquote office hours, and every single day. Like, I know a lot of teachers would do like maybe one a week, but she was in here right over here in the spot here in the podcast studio doing Zoom meetings every single day up until this thing was over with. But yeah,
Wow.
it's like, I don't think the stuff at the I don't think the things we see at the drive-through windows are ever going to go away. I think the booger shields are going to be consistent. I don't think a lot of stuff I think is going to stick around. We got 10 minutes left, so Martin, you're more than welcome to stick with us. Gordon, you want to do your equivalent of the news? I know you have a
Yeah,
hard time
let's,
finding non-COVID and non.
Well, I just have a quick question, Gordon.
Sure.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
with so what's going on with conventions there in Vegas? They're
That's
still
gonna be the
no
question.
dice.
Right now, I think they're planning on having them. I think we really won't see a full comeback until CES, and then we'll see how they work. I did go into the casino yesterday. I figured, hey, they opened the day before. Let's just go see what's going on. And definitely people are out there wanting to spend some money right now. Social distancing, it's kind of a mixed bag. I think we're all just. But the thing is, you can't have Americans just on lockdown forever.
No.
We're not built that way. But I do want to go ahead and pivot into the news. A couple of
Pivot!
things.
I saw that
Pivot.
shirt at Target today, by the way. It has Jennifer Aniston and Homeboy on the stairs with the couch, and it says "Pivot" real
Oh.
big on the bottom.
So real quick, with everything that's been going on, we forgot about yesterday. Yesterday was a huge day.
Today's a huge day.
Or is it today?
Well,
Is it today the D-Day?
Well, technically, the Airborne left at 11 p.m. on June 5th. June 5th was the original date for D-Day, but it got socked in with weather. But the weather broke at, so they got on their planes at 9. They actually jumped and landed at midnight. So technically and officially, the first boots of the Pathfinders landed on June 6, 1942, which is today in Normandy. But yes, technically they loaded up. The Pathfinders and the Airborne went out the day before, which was yesterday. But for all intents and purposes, as far as history is concerned, and it's so funny because people hear D-Day all the time, and they are greatly disappointed to find out that D-Day is a generic term, that every single operation that is done during World War II had a D-Day and an H hour. Just like on August 7th, 1942, at 9 a.m. was D-Day for the Marine Corps to land on Guadalcanal. So D-Day has kind of been adopted as the overall name for the landing on Normandy, but technically every single military operation during World War II had a D-Day and an H hour.
So, and that's important. It seems like nobody really talked about it, and I wanted to bring that up leading into the news. One of the things that's going on right now, and it's not a surprise, but police TV shows like Live PD and Cops are going to put a halt to the season premieres and new seasons and new episodes because of what's going on and observance of everything. So the question is will they come back, or is it going to be a complete fallout? I personally think it's good because it shows how badly people behave when cops run into them. And you can't watch an episode, although on that one, am I on Live PD?
How bad is-
that? Would be a great drinking game, by the way. Is
How-
anytime somebody says live PD.
How bad are the producers of Cops scrambling to get relevant again?
Oh, they're both are.
Well, before
it's
this, so Live PD was the end all be all, and like only place to watch Cops was on reruns. And I know before this all happened, Cops was actually in contract with the Fort Myers police to come down here and do some filming again. But all this happened. But it's just so funny how a little bit of technology made Live PD just wipe Cops, who's been the prominent quote unquote reality police show since the '80s, directly off the damn calendar. No one even talks about that show anymore.
Yep, and that's absolutely true. But a statement released was out of respect for the families of George Floyd and others who lost their lives and in consultation with the departments we follow, and in consideration for the safety of all involved, we have made the decision not to broadcast Live PD this weekend. A&E released, so they're going to rerun them, which is kind of interesting.
Yep.
But they're not going to be, at least for the foreseeable future, it sounds like, broadcasting new episodes.
For those of you who enjoy watching this podcast via the video, we are finally getting things sorted out with Zoom. The audio sounds better than it has a long time, but now we're stuck to these 240. Well, technically, we could start a third segment, but I think that'll get a little old. Head over to d-410.com and click on that Patreon link. And if you sign up for Patreon, if I get like maybe 3 of you guys, I will, maybe we can get enough funds to pay you that $200 a year for the full-time version of Zoom, and we don't have to chop the show up in half, and we don't have to have these time restraints because, as you know, this show usually goes 140 minutes, but now we're stuck doing 80-minute episodes. So please head on over if you're a big viewer of the video format, whether on YouTube, Patreon, Periscope, or Facebook. Head over to D-410. I feel like we're doing like a telethon, and click on that Patreon link and help support the show so we can get back to our fully length shows. What's your next story? We got 2 minutes left.
I want to probably end it there. My next story will run way too long. I want to bring that one up on the next episode. That's pretty much it for now because of the time constraints. Man, I do feel like I'm an NPR all of a sudden.
Because the listeners like you were able to bring you this mediocre content. So if you enjoy this mediocre content and you share it with your friends, please head over to d-410.com and support the
huge.
show.
It was mediocre.
Oh, yeah. I mean, come on. This is mediocre entertainment at best.
At best.
Mark Marzika, thank you once again for joining us and telling us what's going on in your part of the world. I just can't imagine. You got to feel almost like the boy in the bubble sitting in your apartment watching the rest of the world play.
I just feel bad for the friends and family that are police and firefighters, first responders. I mean, they're getting mixed messages.
Mm-hmm.
At first they were told to hold down the curfew. And then, sadly, there was 1 or 2 that you could question that, stepped out of line as a police officer. But other than that, I mean, when you got the looting that's going down there and the nonsense, I mean, how do you expect them to react? And then when they're told, stand down, they stand down. And it went on for way too long. It's still going on. So not as what it was before, but, I'm just amazed that it's still going on to this day. But it seems like you're seeing more and more peaceful protests
And that's
and less looting.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Martin. We will see you again here soon. Gordon, thank you so much. Where can people find you, Gordon?
I can be found at Aegis1974 on Instagram, abernathy.gordon on Twitter, and Gordon at D-410.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you for contributing to support the podcast, and we will talk to you all next week. And remember, if you don't get out of your comfort zone, you'll never get out of bed, and you'll never do anything productive. We love you guys so much. Thank you.